Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Just wanted to make another financial video here, and in this video we're going to talk about credit cards. So as a first measure of the conversation, what is a credit card? Um, so when it comes to credit cards, a credit card is essentially an account. It's a revolving account that you have with a bank, usually with a bank. And on that, that credit card, you can charge it. And at the end of the month, you do have a bill that you have to pay because of that. Now, how does a credit card differ from a debit card? When it comes to credit cards is actually you using the bank's money, and the bank is going to, accept your charges up to your credit limit, and then you have to pay them back plus a little bit of interest. But if you pay it back within the scheduled time period and you pay the balance off in full, you don't have to pay any interest. But for some reason, if say you charge up $100 on the credit card, and then you can only pay back 10, 20, $30 of it, and then that remaining balance is there, you will be charged an interest rate on that, and then you'll have to pay the next month that remaining balance that you have plus the interest. Now with a debit card is going to be something that is just directly taken out of your bank account. So if you have $100 in your bank account, you swipe your debit card and it just takes that money out. So if you have $100 in your bank account, you spend $10, now you have $90. So that is actually your money. Now when it comes to the base terminology, we're going to talk about a few terms here to kind of educate ourselves a little bit about what credit cards are. So the base terminologies, we have credit limit. Now your credit limit is going to be set by the bank. So if you apply for a credit card and they may start you out with $200-300, or if you're more credit worthy, it could be $1,000, 10,000, 100,000. There's unlimited credit cards where you don't have a limit at all. So that's a thing. Your APR is the next term. Your APR is going to be your annual percentage rate. So your annual percentage rate is going to be based on your credit worthiness. What kind of interest is the bank going to charge you? So and that could be going off of the prime rate. So they may say, hey, the prime rate right now is 25%. Your credit really isn't all that impressive, so we're going to just charge you, that highest percentage. And so some people mistakenly think that an APR is going to be per month, but it's really per year. So like let's say you charged up $100 on your credit card, your APR is 25%. So they're going to charge you $25, but they're going to space that out over the whole entire year. So you'll only be getting charged a few dollars in interest. Like let's just say you carry a balance of about $100 every month. You still, make your payment or whatever, your minimum payment, but you still have that $100 that you're paying, or that little small amount that you're paying. But you carry that $100, so they're going to charge you a couple dollars every single month just because that's what your annual percentage rate is. Your minimum payment is just going to be the least you can pay to keep your account what's called current. So that's an important thing, that you at least have to be able to make your minimum payment, but you ideally want to pay off your whole entire balance so that way you're not charged any interest, or at least pay off more than the minimum payment, so that way you're basically eliminating the interest that you're going to have to occur each month. So when it comes to the types of credit cards, so you have standard credit cards, um, basic, just starter cards, something that you may even have to put like a little bit of a payment towards just to get it, to kind of secure the card. So they call those secured cards, or a secured loan. So they may say, you may apply for your credit card and they may say, hey, we could give you a $300 limit, but you're going to have to give us $200 or $150 or something. And you actually have to give them that money, and they're going to hold that money. And that's going to be the only way that they're going to be able to give you that credit card. You have rewards cards, that have like things like cash back, points, travel rewards, things like that. Um, then you have balance transfer cards. So the balance transfer cards are kind of for, like let's say you have a credit card, your introductory period is up and they're charging you a lot of interest. You could open a balance transfer card and then transfer that high balance that you're paying interest on over to that balance transfer card, and that would basically avoid you having to pay that interest because you're transferring it to a new balance transfer credit card that has a 0% APR for 12 months, 18 months, or whatever. Now you also have business credit cards designed for small businesses and entrepreneurs. So some people don't know this, but you can take out a credit card with your own personal, uh, you know, just based on who you are. But then if you have a business, you can open up a business credit card too. So let's just say somebody has, Joe Blow LLC. Now his name's Joe Blow, so he can open up credit cards in his own name. But then say Joe Blow LLC, wants a credit line for 50,000, and banks think, okay, well, it's his business is going good, so they go ahead and give him a loan for 50,000 or whatever. And so that's his business credit card, separate from him. The they look at the business as like an entity. Student credit cards, tailored for college students, limited credit history, they kind of know you're just starting out, same kind of thing. Now when it comes to the benefits of credit cards, you can build your credit history. The banks want to see you basically are able to they're able to loan money to you and then pay it back. So if they give you $1,000, are you just going to go and max it out, or are you going to just spend a little bit and then just pay it back, and they can see that you're responsible? And if they can see that, then they can basically extend you more money, and they know that you're not going to screw the bank over. So that's really important to help improving your credit score is spending within your means to be able to pay it back. Very important. You can earn rewards. So there's a lot of different credit cards out there that are really cool. You can earn cash back. So say you spend $100 and there's a 2% or a 3% cash back rate, they'll give you $2, $3 or whatever. And that kind of sometimes can be kind of sticky because it gets people in this mindset of spending more to earn more. But that really doesn't make sense to do that. You really want to keep that to a minimum and really just realize, hey, cash back, points, miles, whatever, that's just a benefit. But you should only be spending that money on things that you normally would have spent it on, instead of thinking, oh, well, I got this credit card, I'll just buy this and buy that. That can kind of lead to some irresponsible debt. Now, another benefit that a lot of people talk about that's really important, and one of my friends talked about with this with me, was purchase protection. So it's really important to have a credit card just for this same reason, fraud protection, extended warranties, chargebacks. So especially if like you're buying something from, some online thing that you've never bought before, there's a lot of protection when it comes to using a credit card online. So like, let's just say you buy something online, it's $100, it comes right out of your bank account. Now if you get that thing and you don't like it, or you never got it at all, your money is really tied up in that. It could take a few weeks to get your money back, and I mean, money is kind of hard to come by, to some extent. And so it's, when you use a credit card instead of actually using your debit card, you have all this protection, all this insurance, because you're not dealing with your money, you're dealing with the bank's money. And the bank doesn't play around about their money. So it's really important to know that. the convenience, just swiping the card, just knowing that it's always going to get approved, that's really good. You got grace periods also. Most cards offer a grace period between paying off a balance without it accruing interest. So you do have a little bit of time to pay it back, and it's the same as cash. You know, just like you spend your cash, there's no interest associated with it. Same thing with a credit card if you pay it back within that grace period. And so, again, you have to make sure that you're being really responsible and not just buying things just because you know you can, but actually spending money how you normally would, even though you know you have a credit card. Um, so, but there are some potential pitfalls. So, high interest rates is one of them. If you don't have a good credit score, they are going to give you a higher interest rate. And that's kind of like, especially if you're like a beginner, you could get also a really high APR. So you are going to be paying quite a bit of money on that. There can be fees, there can be annual fees, there can be late fees, foreign transaction fees. So there's that. Debt accumulation. So people do have a tendency to overspend when it comes to credit cards. I read this one article where it was talking about there's this kind of like there's this thing that kind of unhooks in people's minds when they have a credit card. They think, well, I can buy this, so that means I can afford it. Well, just because you can buy something and they give it to you at the store doesn't mean that you can actually really afford that thing. And you have to be very clear with that when it comes to credit cards. You have to realize, hey, just because they'll give this to me doesn't mean that it's within my budget to be able to comfortably afford this and pay it off within that grace period that we talked about to avoid that interest. And so some people get into the habit of making the minimum payments. But if you make the minimum payments only, you're extending the debt repayment. And when you extend the debt repayment, you're accruing that interest every single month, that APR that we talked about. And that can be a bad thing. So when it comes to understanding credit card interest, explaining how the APR works, 25%, they're going to divide that by 12 months. That's how much interest you're going to be paying on whatever your balance is that you have not paid off at the end of the month. So whenever your bill comes, if you do not pay that bill in full, they will charge you that APR divided by 12. Now the compound interest, how interest is calculated on both your balances and your previous interest, is really important to understand. How to avoid paying interest. There's a lot of people, man, that really are very disciplined with their finances. They're able to get those benefits from those credit cards and avoid overspending on things that they really can't afford, and really maximizing those points, those cash backs. I mean, there's a lot of people online that are all about that. And it's really awesome when people can do that and have the discipline, because it almost makes a credit card kind of almost a superpower. There's certain companies and banks that will almost give you stuff for free. They will give you stuff for free because you're so responsible with your money. They will really reward you for it, for being very disciplined. And so when you look at your credit score, which credit score is very important, when you look at your credit score, it's a breakdown of several different factors. So the first factor is going to be your payment history. That is going to be the most biggest piece of the pie. So you have your payment history, which is going to be 35% of your total credit score. Your payment history, and we'll go over this real quick. Your payment history is going to be, say, hey, we loaned John this card, this amount. He's pretty consistent every single month. He pays it off in full. Or even if you just pay your minimum, which is not advised, but if you do pay your minimum, it does count as a check mark on that payment history for that month. So when you look on certain websites like Credit Karma or something like that, for example, you'll see this really big chart, and it might be, ever since you first got that credit card to, years later. And in each little month, there'll be a green check mark, or there'll be a red X. And that red X is going to say, hey, he didn't make his payment on time. This is bad. He's probably doing bad. He can't afford all this stuff. He bought too much stuff. And that kind of sends out kind of like an alert to the banks, like, ooh, this person might not be as financially stable as we thought, because he's not able to even make, a $30 payment on a $100 credit card. He's might be a little risky, and your score could go down, because that could basically, alert the banks, hey, this guy's not as stable as we thought. This person doesn't have as good of a career as we thought. He's not managing his money like he should. And then now the second category is going to be the second largest. It's going to be credit utilization ratio. So when it comes to credit utilization, if you got $1,000 credit card, if you spend $100 on that credit card, your credit utilization ratio is now 10%. That's ideal. That's what most banks want to see. You only spend about 10% when it actually reports. So there's a difference between your bill and when the actual credit card reports every month. I watched this guy one time. He was talking about spending these massive amounts of money, and then he pays it back before the reporting date. And so his credit score doesn't take a hit, because he's paying it off in full before, or at least paying it down to that 10% mark before it actually reports to the credit bureaus. So that's an important thing. You can do that. Or you could just say, hey, I got $1,000 limit. I'm only going to spend 100, just because I just want to make sure, that the credit bureaus don't, think I'm overspending because I'm desperate for cash, because I don't know how to manage my money. Now the length of the credit history is another factor. That's 15% of the credit score. That is a 15% factor. How long have you had this credit card? Have you managed it for 5, 10, 15 years? Because if you have, that's awesome, because that demonstrates, hey, this person is responsible. They've been responsible for a really long time. You can't really do anything about the length of the credit history, but just continue on, carrying on, managing your money correctly. New credit, 10%, credit mix. Now, if you get hard inquiries because you're, applying for a lot of credit cards, or you're applying for a lot of different loans and stuff, that can be a bad thing if you have too many of them, because then it makes it seem like you're desperate for money, like you're not doing good, you're desperate for money. That can be a bad thing. So you want to kind of think hard about how many actual cards and stuff you really apply for. Make sure that you're dead set. Okay, this is the card I want. This is for a fact what I need to do. I need this car. I need, whatever it is. I'm willing to commit to this for several years. I'm sure I want to do this. Instead of just every other day you're just applying for something. Those hard inquiries really add up, and they do take about 2 years to knock off of your score. So it's really important that you take that kind of stuff seriously. And then credit mixing is another 10%. So credit mixing, 10%. You want to make sure you have different types of stuff. So you have credit cards, you got home loans, mortgages, you have car loans, you got maybe a personal loan. They like to see that you can kind of manage finance in all areas. Maybe you got a store card through Macy's or something, or Dick's Sporting Goods or something, because you just like those brands. Now, if you can manage all that stuff and manage it correctly and responsibly, they're going to see that, and they're really going to like that credit mix. So the main tips on improving your credit score: paying on time, keeping utilization low, and maintaining long-standing accounts. So those are really important things everyone should do. Now, when you want to choose the right credit card for you, you got to consider your spending habits. So some credit cards will offer more percent back on groceries, some with gas, some with travel. I know some people that have one card for groceries, one for gas, and one for travel. Because different credit cards are going to, utilize certain, categories better. Um, Understanding reward programs. Is it simpler for you to just do cash back and just keep it simple? Or do you like the points thing? There's certain people that like the points. They like cashing in the points for, a gift card or whatever to Apple or whatever it is. I mean, there's just a whole world of revolving things, when it comes to these points. 10% off this month, or 20% off this month. And then, but then at the same time, you almost have to be careful, because it's like, okay, am I spending just because this is on sale, or there's a reward on this, or do I actually need this thing? So you have to think about that as well. So some people just like to keep it simple and just keep it cash, cash back, 2%, whatever. Some people like travel rewards. I know some people that really love to travel. They're very passionate about it. When they spend and they get those miles, and they say, hey, I went all the way to this place for free, and then stayed at this hotel for free, and I just used my rewards points, my travels points, and hotel points, da 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 da. People, it depends on what you're into. Um, Now the introductory offers are really awesome when it comes to credit cards. So pay attention to those introductory offers, because you can get, you know, 0% for a year, 0% APR for a year. So that means within that year, you pay no interest on any of that stuff. So as long as you pay it off within that year, you can get 0% interest for a year. Sometimes I've seen 18 months before. That's really cool. Sign up bonuses are another good thing. You can see, $200 sign up bonus, $300, $400, $500 sign up bonuses. There's all kinds of things. Now, when it comes to using a credit card responsibly, like I said, pay off your balance every month. Set a budget, and avoid overspending. Avoid taking out cash advances. Now, cash advances are a thing. You can do that, but you do have to pay a fee. And then you just have to monitor your statement in general. Okay, did I make all these purchases? Did somebody steal my card? I mean, there's so many scammers out there nowadays that are constantly trying to steal everybody's information. When it comes to your finances, you really do want to take into account all the different things that can happen. And like I was saying about the credit card hacks, people are maximizing rewards. They're leveraging the sign up bonuses, the balance transfers. Pay attention to all that stuff. If you're maximizing your rewards, that means you're paying it off. Everyday purchases, you're just paying them off right back to back to back. You're getting free stuff, the cash back, the points, whatever it is, because you're so responsible. You leverage the sign up bonuses, like, hey, $300 is $300. That could be $300 that you could save, that you can invest, that you could spend on the things that you like. It's $300. Sign up bonuses are awesome. Balance transfers, sometimes people get into too much credit card debt. If John has $1,000 credit card, and let's just say he just can't afford it anymore, and they're whacking him, paying him, making him pay 25% interest or 30% interest or whatever, and he sees the next bank is offering a 0%, APR for 12 months, and they approve him on the card. He could just take that $1,000 that he owes, and then transfer it onto that other credit card, and then save himself the interest that he's going to pay, which could be a good thing, and then, take a little time to pay it off, and just, be in a more comfortable position, and then kind of avoid that interest that you're gonna have to pay. Um, Now, when it comes to the mistakes of credit cards, paying paying only the minimum balance, that's a mistake. Very bad. Just, unless there's like some emergency thing, you should always be paying off your credit card in full. Just always do that. Some people ignore the interest rates. If I got a friend that I know that signed up for a credit card through a credit union, and he said, well, I usually don't do credit cards. Excuse me. I usually don't do credit cards, but this credit union offered me a 11% APR, which is pretty nice because considering most credit cards are 25, 26, 27%. Hey, 11% from a credit union, that's pretty good. That's pretty good money. That's pretty good interest on your money. So if you did spend a little bit and say you couldn't pay it off, I mean, do you want to pay 11% or do you want to pay 26% or 27%? you know um Applying for too many credit cards in a short period of time, that's a mistake. Makes you look desperate for the credit, and that's a bad thing. Using credit cards as a substitute for emergency savings, that's always a bad thing, because I mean, think about, if you wanted to have an emergency savings and you have $1,000, that's awesome. That's a good start for an emergency savings. They say you're supposed to have about 3 to 6 months of emergency savings saved up in your account, just in case anything bad happens, because you just never know what's going to happen. But if you look at that credit card like a substitute for emergency savings, you're driving your car, your tire blows up, okay, boom, the tire's $150 or whatever it is. You still got to afford that money. You still have to be able to pay that. Just because it's an emergency doesn't mean that the bank is going to look at that any different than any other old purchase that you make. If it goes over the 10% utilization rate, your score is going to drop. If you can't make the full payment, you're going to pay interest. It's just it's a spiraling thing. It really is. Um, so, for the closing thoughts, credit cards can be powerful tools if they're used responsibly. I know a lot of people that have them. I know people that are very responsible with money. They're getting free stuff all the time. They're getting free trips. They're getting free, maybe their meal would be paid for or something like that, that they ate for lunch one day. It happens all the time. Life rewards people that are financially responsible. It always has and it always will. People that are financially responsible, they just have better opportunities when those opportunities present themselves, and they're in a position to be able to capitalize on those good situations that can come their way, because they have resources set back ready to go just in case they see a really good deal. They have the ability to act on it. Whereas somebody that is always overspending is a consumer, they just don't have that same that same ability to do those things. The importance of managing debt and paying on time, I mean, it's completely vital. You have to manage your debt. You have to avoid debt at all costs, and you have to pay on time. That's just part of being a responsible adult. And to reiterate the value of building good credit, especially for your future. You know, when you have good credit, you pay less interest. When you apply for a car loan, they charge you less money for the monthly payment, uh, and also for the interest. You can extend the payment out over several years and make a little bit less of a monthly payment. But also when there's not as much interest tacked on there. You see this all the time with car loans. Some people pay 25% on a car loan, which is just absolutely absurd. Some people pay 1% or no percent on a car loan because they've demonstrated that they're so financially responsible that they're worthy of that money, and the bank looks at them as credit worthy. They earn a good income, they save a good amount of money, they're not over consumers, and whatever they say that they're going to pay, they pay it. And when you're like that and you're very responsible and tight knit like that, you can have an awesome life, that is very calm, and money can be kind of like the least of your worries sort of thing. I know a lot of people like that. They don't talk about money. They're never worried about it because they have all their ducks in a row and they're very disciplined. So, man, I really appreciate you guys. If you guys watched all the way to this point, if you guys could like, like the videos, subscribe. If you guys have any questions or comments, I'd really appreciate any of the comments. If you guys have anything that you want me to make a video about regarding any topics when it comes to finance, I will totally do that. So I really appreciate you guys. Have a good night. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.